sizoba dubula nge-ak bomkhonto bathila ebathila sizoba dubula nge-ak Tambuya babona Manja Manja Away two Amandla Uzoyithola kanjani Khele khoneni Wetsala Wirala Wetsala Viva the ANC Youth League, the ANC Youth League, viva! Viva the ANC Youth League, the ANC Youth League, viva! Viva the ANC, viva! Viva the ANC Veterans League, viva! Wathinta abafazi, wathinta imbokodo. Viva the ANC Women's League, viva! Viva Kosas, viva! Viva Sasko, viva! Amandla! Away two! Viva the Eastern Cape, viva! Viva the Eastern Cape, viva! Amandla! I can see you are still alive. Greetings to the leadership of the Eastern Cape, regional leaders, the provincial leadership, because Comrade Francisco and Comrade Voyo told me that today's jazz hour is a jazz hour of leaders. Now you are greeted in the name of the Presidential Jazz Hour. Most importantly, greetings to our veterans. When we came up with the concept of the Jazz Hour, we said that we're not paralleling the normal OR Tambo School of Leadership. We said we're adding on. But the concept of the Jazz Hour, when we came with it, Comrades of the Veterans League, we said we wanted to take a posture of a storytelling. Because there are many veterans who are leaving us every day without telling us the stories. Yes, some of the stories are archived on documents and books, but we don't have them recorded, most of them. Then we said that this Jazz Hour is not about the Youth League. The Youth League are the receivers of the information. But the Jazz Hour is about the MK veterans, is about the Veterans League. We're creating a platform for them to come and tell their stories to young people of this country. Now, this Jazz Hour is mainly about you, the Veterans League. That's why you are the most special today. Because our stories must be told by yourselves. Because most of the people who write stories of our history, some of them leave the most important parts of their history. They write it the way that they want the narrative to be driven by themselves. But we said ourselves as the Youth League, this generation, will utilize these Jazz Hours and record them live so that they're archived for generations to come to know that freedom was not free. Because there's a perception that freedom was free. Freedom was not free. There are people that had to pay the price for it. And it's very important that they tell their stories so that we learn and find a way of defining our own generational mission out of their experiences. And to greet also the chairperson of the Youth League, the former Deputy Speaker of the legislature, who has also blessed this event because it is very important that they also tell their stories and the mistakes that they've made. Because they are a generation that led the Youth League before us. And I was happy to hear also the chairperson speaking with honesty. The challenges that they have faced, because many generations that come before us, they tend to present a picture that were the worst generations, and the Youth League died with them. After them, there was never any Youth League, and there will never be any Youth League. And I'm happy to hear the chairperson taking responsibilities of events that has led to the problems that has faced both the Youth League and the ANC, which are historic problems, which we must fix ourselves as a generation that is here. And that appreciation and the contribution is important because it assists us to know not to repeat the mistakes that have been done by generations before us. Now, chairpersons, thank you very much for coming. But also, comrades, to appreciate the presence also of the former president of COSAS and the former president of the ANC Youth League, who is also presented here the challenges we are faced with and why as a generation we must never get involved in counter-revolution programs. We must be a generation that is obsessed about the renewal of the African National Congress. As we have acknowledged ourselves as the ANC, that the ANC requires renewal because the ANC is faced with challenges. It's now attacked both internally and externally. Now, the attack is visible even internally. I'm sure in the past, comrades, veterans, the internal infiltration was not as visible as now. I'll want to tell you a story that I've heard on how the apartheid security planned how to infiltrate the African National Congress. And in some of their planning, when they write in their books and review, they say that the biggest mistake they've done, they've overinvested. They've overinvested in the weakening of the African National Congress. Because their plan was to infiltrate the African National Congress and influence their positions within the ANC. But their plan was never to collapse the ANC. Now, they are saying that in their books, that they've overinvested because the collapse of the African National Congress simply means that South Africa and Africa will totally collapse. And there will be no one who will have full control on what must happen because the ANC is the only parliament of the people. Now, their overinvestment also affects them and their kids, mainly Afrikaners, because they stay here, they have nowhere to go. If this country collapses, where will they go? And they don't believe that there is no DA or any other front plus that will lead this country again. Now, the overinvestment has created many pieces of black organizations that are further weakening the African National Congress. Now, I want to appreciate you, President, and your attendance. You are one of the few presidents that became board president of COSAS and the ANC Youth League. It's only me and you who won't count the other one years left. It's not easy, Comrade Francisco, to be board president of COSAS and the Youth League. And others have dreamt of it. It has never happened. Now, you are appreciated. But comrades, as I've said in my opening, that today's Jazz Hour is about the Veterans League. Normally, I know it's a fourth Jazz Hour today here. We've heard it in 4 provinces. This is a 4th province. We've had the Jazz Hour in Gauteng, Limpopo, Northwest, now in the Eastern Cape. We're going to have one big Jazz Hour in KZN in August to honor women that were in prison and exile. Because we believe as the Youth League, most of the time we speak about the men who have played the role. We forgot about the women who have also played the role. Now, the Jazz Hour of August is mainly dedicated to women in KZN. Because it was not only men who fought for the liberation of the people of South Africa. There were also women who sacrificed more than men. Because women really sacrifice more than men. Even here, even in democracy, they sacrifice more than men. Because nothing stops a man, but there's a lot of things that stop women. Now we'll be honoring them in KZN on the August month, which is next month. Working together also with the Veterans League and the war veterans. Now this Jazz Hour is the beginning of a wave for political education. I know Francisco, when I said Jazz Hour, he assumed everything is jazz. I'm always fighting with Francisco every day to say no. As been explained by the veterans, in exile, they used to utilize Jazz Hour as a session to revive their morale, to fight against the system when they feel demoralized. Now, different generations find a way, different ways of celebrating. Now, there was nothing wrong, Francisco, to bring Emma piano here or bring gospel and mix it with jazz. So that these young people, in between the political education, they can also dance to their favorite piano songs. Because the Jazz Hour must be responsive also to current conditions. We're not saying there's something wrong with the jazz. We like the jazz. But we're saying let's mix it with a bit of piano and gospel and all of that. So that everyone else is accommodated. But it's the first Jazz Hour. And we appreciate how it's been organized and the discipline of our comrades who came here. But comrades, this Jazz Hour is convened at a time where the movement is at crossroads. The movement is at crossroads. And when the movement is at crossroads, it means that it is losing its hegemony as a leader of society. Now, the Jazz Hour is a platform for political education for the youth that must be equipped as soldiers to fight for the total liberation of our people. Arrives at a time where the movement is at crossroads. Arrives at a time where I always call ourselves, we are a special generation that leads the ANC at a time where we must rescue the ANC. Now, the renewal program, when we were called upon to participate in it, we knew that it is the Youth League that must lead the renewal and the saving of the African National Congress, because the ANC belongs to us now. I know the Veterans League, which I work very closely with, when I spoke about the retirement age of 65, it was the only time we differed. We agree with everything with the Veterans League. But when I said that they must retire at all levels at 65, we did not agree at that level. But on everything else, we agree. But the moment I said that the corridors of power must be directed by the youth of this country, they must define and lead their own future. Whether it's parliament, whether it's councillors, whether it's business, whether it's leadership, it must be the youth of this country to define their part of where it must go. Because when the movement is at crossroads, it required special ideas and new energy of the youth who have not been compromised by anybody, but who are obsessed about defining their own agenda and securing their future. That is not ageism. That is visionary. Ageism is when you say the old must go and do nothing. I've created a platform for the Veterans League called Jazz Hour. Now, they are doing something. Because the reason this platform is created is that you don't have to be in the front to advise and deliver wisdom to the youth. You can be at the back and influence the direction the youth must take. You don't always have to be in the front. You can be at the back and influence the direction the youth must take. That's why you must equip the youth through political education so they are conscientized enough to understand when the movement is at crossroad and it requires renewal, what does renewal mean? That is the role of the Veterans League and MK. Now, they do have a role. That's why when we're called upon that we have wage drivers that have infiltrated the movement as per analysis of President Tambo. And we can't afford any further divisions or breakaways in the movement. Comrade Francisco, when we introduced something, I know it angered many comrades. We introduced what we call at the national level as part of taking responsibility, because the ANC has always spoken about unity, but not practicalize it. Then the Youth League said, because what the Youth League, all the things must be tested in the Youth League first to see if they work. Agree, my comrades? Because if the Youth League fails, you can easily say as the ANC, failile. Now, every hot fire, the ANC must always test with the Youth League. Good, if they can go there or not. Now, we introduced something, Comrade Francisco. We called it political management by officials. We said in all our conferences of the Youth League, there's not going to be contestation. We're dealing with an abnormal situation. We can't afford any conference of the Youth League where people are throwing each other with chairs. We said we're going to show the African National Congress and everyone else that the Youth League, which has a history of conferences of people beating each other with fists, we're going to put conferences here of no one beating anybody with fist. They said we're joking. We set over 40 regions in the country, Continental Veterans League. And in all those conferences, there was unity and no contestation. Its leadership was elected on consensus. Those are the results of the political management we put in place. We set 8 provinces. Western Cape, is a bit difficult. We tried all tricks in the book. We're still trying even now. I know even the ANC is trying, the Veterans League is trying, COSATU is trying, SAT, all organizations. Then the Western Cape there, something happened there. When the ship arrived from wherever, the Dash, and landed there, there's something they've left there that has cast the movement. It's very difficult there. We're even worse off now without state power. But we have not given up on the Western Cape. But in all the 9 provinces we've set, I can confirm there was no chair throwing. Even in the most difficult provinces that you know they are difficult, which is Gauteng and KZN and Limpopo, they said their conferences peaceful. Then we went to the African National Congress and said, we've proven ourselves that we can be the leaders of the renewal of the African National Congress. Are you now ready to allow us to lead you? Because we've proven ourselves, Comrade Francisco, that we can provide leadership when leadership is required. We must admit, comrades, that even when counter-revolutionaries infiltrated us, even when we were at crossroads, even when we were losing hegemony, we must take responsibility for the non-implementation of the good resolutions of the African National Congress. It is not sustainable. Leave counter-revolution, leave wage drivers. They are operating because there's a platform for them. It is not sustainable that in any country where the demographics, where the economy does not reflect the demographics of the country. It can be that 31 years later, the face of poverty in South Africa, it is still black and youth and women. When we have created that level of inequalities, it creates a platform for counter-revolution to infiltrate and redirect our people against their revolution. Because when people are hungry, they can't think. Foul. You can't expect hungry people to think. You can't think on a hungry stomach. How does the progressives expect our people not to go and vote for counter-revolutionary organizations? They vote for them because they are hungry and angry. But if the ANC, we can deliberately implement our resolutions and make sure that the economy of this country is controlled by the majority of the people in this country, which are black in majority, make sure that our raw materials below the soil, not more than 70% of them are exported. They remain here in the country to reindustrialize the economy, to create economic activities and opportunities for the people of South Africa. There will be no need for EFF or DA or MK or anybody, because the people will follow their own parliament of the people, which is the African National Congress. We won't blame the people of South Africa for putting the ANC at 40%. We must blame ourselves as the leaders for not giving them a reason not to put the ANC at 40%. If in BGMs of the ANC, you beat each other up, you elect councillors who are drunkards, you put mayors who can't even read council agendas, you put municipal managers who are criminals, you protect forums of criminals, you protect corruption. Who is going to vote for an organization that is stealing from the poor? You know the way, when the integrity of the messenger is in question, Comrade Chair of the Veterans League, I always say this thing, I repeat it everywhere I go. When the integrity of the messenger is in question, no one will believe the message. No matter how true is the message, if the integrity of the messenger is in question, no one will believe the message. Now, where we are seated, the reason there's a call by the veterans of the ANC and everyone that we must renew the ANC, it is because the integrity of the messenger is in question. No one believes anything the ANC says anymore. It is only members of the ANC where we believe each other. But when we leave, no one believes us. Because the integrity of the messenger is in question. I'm saying, everything you do, if you are in question, if you are known, Comrade Francisco, in your village, that you are a criminal, you steal from people, even if we can put you as a councillor and tell people that you are no longer a thief, you are fighting against crime, they won't believe you because they stay with you every day. They know that you still kekel ematole. Bayamazi Francisco ematole. If kekels are lost there in Gamatole, we must go and look them kwa Francisco. No more I'm the councillor. No more I'm imposer because you are in charge of structures, whether PC or region. You can impose him because you have the power to do it. But the people who must support you and vote for you, they stay with him every day. They know he's a criminal. Now, we no longer have that luxury. The people of South Africa have told us that we can take you out of power any day. We love you, but self-correct. That tapa Francisco. Dipuma pagatiti. Hey, the well interview pa. Hey, then get a interview when I tell on a crime because I always speak about crime. Ne? Because I was very hurt with not with what the commissioner have said, because I fully agree with the commissioners. They must do their work. and arrest criminals, because criminals have taken over our communities and our people are no longer safe. Now, I entered there, I said no, because I saw AK-47. Now, when I saw this AK-47, I saw a coup. I said, but is it right that we must be addressed as a nation with people holding guns? Then I spoke the youth league way. I said, no, Mukonazi must stop holding guns or speaking. He must arrest criminals and stop being a pop star. Yeah. Hey. Ndabethwa. Hey ndacha ngangena embawulweni awuzimbawula. Hey ngathi ngiyabheka abangani bama sayidini. Hey, I'm left alone in this fire. Hey ngithi ngiyabheka ama regional youth league everyone has run away. But hayi president asukuthumanga ke le pop star. Athi let me ban here. But because we've lost our hegemony in society, because the ANC is also associated with criminals sometimes. Even when you say a right thing, that commissioners must arrest criminals, must not call press briefings, must not do that and that, because your integrity is in question. Society says, he's saying that one to protect criminals. Now, now, we really have to self-correct. Because in the absence of respected leadership, you run a risk of opportunists taking over and leading our people to a wrong direction. Because when our people become desperate, they follow anyone who speaks their language or who operates like someone who's resolving their problems. That's why our comrades has went as far as our people voting for political parties that are led by criminals. It is because those that must lead them no longer command respect from them. Because respect is earned, comrades. It's a privilege to be respected. I always tell people that even addressing people and they listen to you, it's a privilege. It is not your right. It is not your right to be respected. It is a privilege that you earn through your behavior. Now, if your behavior is a behavior of somebody who does not deserve respect, it's a problem. If you are a chair of the youth league in a region, every time where there's a party, you are known that you are the first to arrive, you go to the VIP section and you take people's girlfriends or boyfriends, is a problem. Because society has presented us as those that are opulent, and when we arrive, we oppress everyone around us. But awuzukofikile ngoku emathole ayizabona amahenesi. Now, the people are revolting against the oppression. Because the ANC has done nothing to people. The individuals in the ANC who present themselves as leaders of the ANC because of democratic elections that have elected, in most cases, some of those conferences are rigged. Presenting yourself there, then you want to impose yourself on the people and further oppress them. Then you expect that you'll be respected. It is only the Youth League that can fix the ANC. Even when the ANC was at its weakest in the 40s, it is the Youth League that fixed the ANC. Even today, when the ANC is at its weakest, it is our Youth League that must fix the ANC. And the only way you'll do that, you must be fearless and be ready to fight with everything you have, be ready to move out of your privileges to fight for the savior of the only parliament of the people. And it will take a fearless youth league to do that. We are going to convene ANC leadership as the youth league post our NGC and inform them that where we are at this stage, the ANC can no longer afford any contested national conference. The ANC can't afford any other breakaway. The leadership of the ANC in 2027 must be elected on consensus. We must spend 80% of the time discussing how to gain the support of our people, than spending the time we'll be spending in all our conferences singing about leaders and everybody else and not doing why we're there. Now the delegates, which are young and majority, which will be sent to that conference, are delegates that will spend time not singing about individuals, but spending time to build and how to resolve on resolutions that can take back the ANC to be an organization of the people again. You can't do that when you are divided and fighting amongst yourselves. You can't do that when you spend most of your time in conferences trying to impress who you want to be elected when and where. You can only do that when the leadership is elected on consensus, and most of the time is spent discussing on how to renew the ANC for the better and save the ANC from its past mistakes. We did a very big mistake in Polokwane. We are paying for it even today. Even a child that was born in 2007 is still paying for the mistake of 2007. We elected counter-revolution there of someone who goes as far as Morocco to take money. Counter-revolution. You will not see counter-revolution in the ANC if you are not united. And in Polokwane, because there were divisions and there were fights, you could not see the infiltration that was happening in the African National Congress at that level. But if there was unity, that counter-revolution was not going to be elected. Another issue Comrades must address is the issue of the non-racial character of the ANC. I think it's only the Veterans League that has a non-racial character. I'm seated here in this meeting. I don't see a proper spreading of demographics of this country. I don't see white people here. I don't see colors here. Okay, maybe colors can be seen properly. I don't see Indians. Now, comrades, the ANC has a non-racial character. And that non-racial character must reflect in the preparatory school of the ANC. Because if it does not reflect here, it will not reflect in the mother body. Because this is where we must prepare leaders of the African National Congress. Now, if here we are a mini PAC, then there's a problem. We must reflect the non-racial character of the African National Congress. Even when we recruit, we must be deliberate on recruiting everyone in all corners of this country. Whether you are white or black, you must be in the African National Congress. But the national dialogue also, comrades, must come urgently. We need to start discussing the issue of national dialogue in all our corners, especially even towards our NGC. Because it is not, the national dialogue must resolve on enforcing the issue of the restructuring of the economy of the country. Because how the economy of the country is structured, it is no longer sustainable. Our constitution must be clear on how the economy of the country must be structured. It must no longer be a slogan issue. It must be a constitutional matter. I know now that we're losing hegemony. We're pushed back on triple BE. We're pushed back on the Bella Act. We're pushed back on NHI. We're pushed back on many other policies that has to do with addressing the injustices of the past. Because there are people who want us to believe that there was never apartheid in this country. Blacks and white have always competed equally in this country. The Afrikaners want us to believe, right-wingers, that all the wealth that they have it because of hard work. No government intervened for them. When we know very well that the apartheid government deliberately supported them and funded them to start companies and funded their businesses so that they can participate in the economy in that country. When it's supposed to be done for black people, they are saying it's corruption. When it was done for white people under apartheid, they were saying it's empowerment. But if the ANC loses power, all those gains of freedom will be reversed. That's why, as the defenders of the movement, we must actually include to that. And we must applaud our comrades that have met in Gauteng for the Liberation Movement Summit. We hope the resolutions have resolved on that they must close rank everywhere so that we defend the agenda of the people of Africa. They'll implement them. We hope that the Africa Free Trade agenda, where Africans can trade amongst themselves, I hope that that agenda will be implemented fully so that the economies and the countries in Africa are developed, because Africa can't be the face of poverty when it's a blessed nation. How does a continent with a good weather, with good minerals, is a face of poverty, but a continent like Europe and America, when they have nothing, they are seen as developed, but those that have got resources are underdeveloped? It is because of historic colonization and the exploitation of our mineral resources below our soil and our people. Those things must be reversed. We can't be oppressed. The generation of Komerdula oppressed, our grandparents were oppressed, even ourselves were economically excluded and oppressed by the same system. Now we hope that that is resolved. Because failure to resolve that will also be oppressed, like further oppressed, and even our kids will be further oppressed. The industrialization program and the export quotas must be an Africa agenda. Then we will not have to worry about foreigners coming here or not coming there, because the economy will be so open that the only foreigners you will see as foreign will be those from Europe and America. Our infrastructure will be funded by our own minerals below our soil. Now we pray that it has worked. But we've also committed, after the call was made by President Thabo Mbeki in Addis, that we need to relaunch the Pan-Africanist youth movement so that we unite all the youth in Africa. And through my discussion, Comrade Chair of the Youth League, on Friday, with all African youth leaders of liberation movements, we've agreed that by October in Mozambique, we'll go and launch the Pan-Africanist Youth Movement again, which is an organization that has harbored and trained many. It was a platform that united all African youth voices in the whole of Africa. Because you can't wage a revolution if you're operating in isolation. You need to mobilize everyone, so the agenda is one. And we've agreed that in honor of President Thabo Mbeki and many other leaders, we will relaunch the Pan-Africanist Youth Movement so that the voice is coordinated everywhere. Because we are all oppressed by the same system with different colors. They've utilized language to separate us. They've utilized color to separate us. They've utilized culture to separate us. Now we're saying that that must be united so that we're one again and unite the way those that came before us, the Oliver Tambos, united to liberate different countries, to ultimately liberate South Africa. It is because of a collective work of African young leaders in Africa. Now we're saying that as we honor this Jazz Hour and commit that the youth service also, it will be implemented, because the ANC has committed through the National Defense Force that the youth service program must happen and the budget must be put aside. We must just define it further to say that anyone post-matric must go into the military for at least a year before they go to university, so that everyone else is a trained conscientized soldier. We can't have the youth running around the streets because of high level of unemployment, when we can put most of them into training and give them stipends, so that while they are training, they receive stipends while we are resolving the economic issue, so they go and participate in the economy. Now, we will not have crime in the country, we will not have problems in the country, because all the youth will be soldiers in the streets guarding their own communities. Now, that is a program that I think Veterans League and MK War Veterans must join us, that after matric, it must be compulsory for every young person in this country to go to the military. Thank you very much.
Zokwaba ukonyula nokonyula iphela i-term of office kwaba. Amandla kawethu comrade ndicela ubiza uchairperson weprovince ucomrade Vuyo. After ndibize ucomrade Vuyo izoba pha khona uzongena emva kochairperson. Uchairperson unento afuna uyinika upresident. Chairperson to president leadership. Tambo. Tambo bapela bantu. Tambo bapela bantu. Tambo bapela bantu. Thina sidlala lenkatha iziphuku siyasijwayela. Oliver Tambo bapela bantu. Oliver bapela bantu. Ngoba thina sidlala lenkatha iziphuku siyasijwayela. Amandla awethu umhlambe kuzafuneka upresident asonde lapha ngaphambili. Comrade President, it's yourself. President. No. When we do a Peter Mokaba lecture, we'll hand over a drawing to his family. This is just a token of appreciation, Comrade President. Why are we appreciating you for doing your work? It's because when we called you just a day after we were elected, you flew all the way from Gauteng and you came and addressed us. When we called you, when we had a number of our programs, you have never made any excuse, but you have always availed yourself, and you have came and addressed all of our programs. Even this time around, we knew that your diary was very busy in Eastern Cape. So it's just us saying to you, thank you, Comrade President, for always availing yourself when we invite you in the province. We know that there are provinces that would want you to go to them, but sometimes you end up canceling because of your busy schedule, not because you don't want to go to them. But with us, you always sacrifice for the Eastern Cape. So we highly appreciate that it will never go unnoticed. Even this just hour was a very short notice, but you made sure that you are going to be with us. Secondary to that, President, the last time you were here, this venue was full like this. And we promised yourself, together with the branches of the ANC Youth League, that we are going to build structures of the African National Congress Youth League in the province. You came and told us about the political management. We've delivered 6 out of 8 regions. In fact, 7 out of 8 regions through political management. And there was no contestation. There is only one region that is still yet to convene its regional conference, which is Chris Hani. And Amatole now, because in terms of office, so you have always been there when we were building these structures. Kale token of appreciation, President. City, on behalf of the Eastern Cape, qhubeka uphathe mfondini. Qhubeka uphathe, President. Awukawugqibi umsebenzi bekumele ngabe uyawenza. Sinenkolelo yonto kokubana le term izawuqhawuka phakathi ungekawugqibi umsebenzi okufuneka ngabe uyawenza. Siyakunika ke nalizayo uba uzawusiphatha ngolu hlobo. Because you have represented us very well. Ungatshintshi ke mongameli xa sesikugamlele esibini. Xa sesikugamlele esibini ungatshintshi, President. Continue being the person that you are. Continue enforcing our resolutions to the African National Congress. Because Lendo export quotas, it's something that we have always known as a solution. But we have never thought that ukhona umuntu ozoyimela ngohlobo oyimele ngalo. You don't miss a platform without having to say it. We still believe that up until it has been fully implemented by the government of the African National Congress, sisakudinga uqhubeke uyipushe ngohlobo uyipusha ngalo. Sitsho ke si Eastern Cape, President. Mandla khona ophikisayo. Long live. Esavumelana, 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 esavumelana. Esavumelana, 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 thina esavumelana, esavumelana, Collen Malatjie Mandla wethu. Announcements.
Amandla, before your announcement, Comrade Z, bese ucela wena comrade uzokwenza nje vote of thanks. President apha hayi ndicela wena comrade Ziyanda. Sicela comrade Ziyanda Vusonyuke. Isizathu soba Kutheni makunje valelwe majele. Bafazi kutheni makunje valelwe majele. Oh thina siyabuza. Ngibulela abantu aba. Sacacisa. Amandla wethu amandla thina sinemibuzo siya amandla kawethu comrades masicacise comrades ngokwe protocol ne program bekufanele kuze provincial treasurer, that's why comrades, but upresident ucelile into ba kwenzekile ishwa into ba uchairperson unobhala utreasurer bengamadododo wathi akazuyivumela lo nto ekhona. There must be a female comrade from the PC that must be given a platform to speak. That's all, comrades.
Mandla awethu Mandla awethu. Long live the ANC Youth League, long live. Long live the ANC Youth League, long live. Comrades, without saying much, to the provincial chair of the Veterans League, the former chair of the ANC Youth League, to the president, the NEC, on behalf of the ANC Youth League, PEC, to the delegates, which are yourselves, regional leadership, everyone in the room. Siyabulela betunana. Thank you so much.
No pal. Comrade Konayo.
Amandla awethu comrades kwaba basekhubusane man ndiyacela bebeze ngeteksi ne zonke itaxi zethu sezilapha phaphandle and also lento yokutya iseteksini siyesaqona ke sicingela ixesha it's 6:30 siyayazi ba onomzamo funeka belungiselele abantwana ngomso for isikolo. Amandla
Comrades, senibulelwe. The program is adjourned, comrade. Amandla.
Comrades, abezinye regions, they must remain seated. Kuphume ikhubusana so that kuzongena kwabo ukutya ke ngoku.